Okay, good morning. My name is Laurence Boisramé. I am the Global Sales Director in charge of hydrogen at Bureau Veritas, and I will talk about certification of hydrogen and of ammonia. So let me first rapidly present you Bureau Veritas. We are a very old company created almost 200 years ago in France, but we are also a very global company. We are present in 140 countries, employing more than 80,000 people, and you can see here our presence over the world. What we provide, or what is our contribution, especially on hydrogen. Our overall contribution is to provide as much as possible trust, and this is really needed in this, I would say, phase of the industry. So for that, we leverage our long-standing expertise, especially in risk and safety management, to bring trust. And we can act in two different ways, as an independent third party, where, of course, we can provide certification services, certification of assets, certification of equipment, as well as supply chain quality assurance and independent testing of equipment, but also testing of molecules, hydrogen molecules or hydrogen derivatives. We can also provide technical expertise as an owner engineer, for instance, but also technical advisory, permitting support, and risk and safety management to just simplify our services. So with regard to a certification, what are the main challenges of the industry today? You probably know that quite well. But hydrogen is not a new topic. What is new is how it will be, or how it is, or how it will be produced, and what will be done with this hydrogen or even hydrogen derivatives. So the value will mostly be in the sustainable and environmental attributes of the hydrogen, and especially the way it is produced. We are today in the not yet mature phase of the industry. We are more in the project development phase, where a major part of the project need to prove bankability in order to attract fundings, subsidies, and partners, and to sign off-take agreements, of course. So in this period, it's really critical to be able to prove bankability, and this can be achieved through certification. So I will explain a little bit more why there is this need of certification. You know that there is no global standard or even any kind of common definition at global level of what is renewable hydrogen, what is low carbon hydrogen. And this lack of regulation translates into a lack of trust, lack of visibility, and it impedes the overall ramp up of the production. So with this landscape, it explains why Bureau Veritas has developed a methodology and a certification scheme for renewable hydrogen associated with a label for the molecule that is produced. So in that case, we leverage our global presence, our 200 years expertise, to design a certification scheme. We are the scheme owner, and we provide the assessment to deliver the certification. What is very important, I will explain it after, is that for us, it's not only a question of renewable hydrogen, but we want to certify that hydrogen production is also safe and sustainable, and I will explain it later. What I want to announce today is that we have now associated the conversion to ammonia from renewable hydrogen to ammonia. So we now have a scheme, a full scheme, both for hydrogen and ammonia production with the same criteria. So which are the three important pillars of this certification scheme? Of course, certifying that the hydrogen is produced from renewable energy is very important. But according to Bureau Veritas, we need to look at other criteria, and especially safety and sustainability criteria. And we consider that this criteria needs to be put at the same level of importance. If we want hydrogen to really play a big role in the future energy system, we need to ensure that it is designed and it is produced and handled in a safe way. So safety is for us of paramount importance. Second pillar is the sustainability, how we can assess that hydrogen is produced in a sustainable manner. For that, we apply a full life cycle assessment methodology, looking at environmental impacts on the full life cycle of the production. Not only carbon intensity, which is, of course, an important topic, but we also look at other impacts, such as water footprint or other environmental impacts. Last one, and important, is that we verify that the energy input is renewable, 100% renewable. Is it for the hydrogen production, but also for the ammonia production, meaning that for the ammonia production, all the energy input needs to be from renewable energy. And on top of that, we want to be very clear that this is low carbon. So we have also set a specific threshold to be, so the overall carbon intensity needs to be under this threshold to get the certificate. So these thresholds are written on the slide. For the hydrogen production is 2 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per kilogram of hydrogen produced. I will explain that it is without the capital goods included, but we perform the overall calculation, including these capital goods, meaning that we have the ability to provide you with a full carbon intensity. The 2 kilograms are to be compliant with major regulations today when we look at European or US regulations. And in translate into a maximum carbon intensity for renewable ammonia of 0.5 kilogram of CO2 equivalent per kilogram of ammonia. Maybe to explain a little bit more how it's, what is the process, how it works. So you can start at design stage. So you don't need to have the plant built and in operation to start the certification process. And at design stage, we can of course perform an assessment upon the design document. Of course, you need to be advanced enough in the design, in the studies. Better to be at feed stage than at feasibility or pre-feasibility to get the maximum information we need. And at this phase, we can deliver the certification at design stage. Then once the plant is built, then we come back with on-site verification, and we can deliver the certificate at operational stage. And this certificate will be valid for 3 years, provided that we can perform annual surveillance audits on site. And associated with this certification is really for the asset, for the production asset, we can deliver the label associated to the molecules, meaning to the hydrogen or to the ammonia that is produced. And this label will need to be linked to the quantity of hydrogen, ammonia that is produced. Of course, the ammonia certification scheme and label follows exactly the same process. If we look at the scope of the assessment, we are in the well-to-gate approach. I said at the beginning that we apply a full life cycle assessment methodology, meaning that we consider, for instance, for the carbon footprint, upstream emissions, but we stop at the gate. We do not today include the transportation or the distribution of hydrogen or ammonia. This is contemplated to be in further modules, but today what is available is a well-to-gate certification scheme. And maybe important also to know that today we have this renewable hydrogen scheme available together with the ammonia. And we are also working, developing a dedicated scheme for low carbon hydrogen, meaning hydrogen produced from natural gas with carbon capture. This should be available in the next weeks or months. So what is the added value for the overall industry? Of course, certification will have two main important goals. First is to value the environmental attributes of the production. We know that green hydrogen will not have the same value as gray hydrogen. So this is first a question of economic value. Second is, of course, a question of compliance and regulatory compliance. Maybe I need to precise that our certification scheme is rely, I would say, on a global methodology that is applicable everywhere, meaning that we have studied all the regulations where a regulation exists, not in all countries, and we have gathered all these regulations in one single methodology, meaning, for instance, this 2 kilogram of CO2 equivalent threshold is defined considering regulation in the US, in Europe, in Japan, in China, in other places. And we have decided to set this threshold at 2 to anticipate further regulations. So what it can provide, of course, for developers, the first step is to provide credibility and bankability of the project. And at the same time, for investors, it provides a tool, support for investment decision making and in selection of the project to invest in. But at the same time, we know that for project to develop and to go the final investment decision, you need to sign offtake agreements. So at the same time, certification will help create confidence, create trust, and getting, I would say, more offtake agreements easier. What is very new and different in our certification scheme, it's not simple, I would say, conformity assessment. It goes beyond that because we start at design stage, meaning that with the process at design stage, you can anticipate how to be compliant when your plant is built. So it's a way to, I would say, impact the design and set the design the more compliant with the future market needs. You have seen that we have incorporated safety and sustainability criteria, which is unique. We have seen no other scheme including safety and sustainability criteria. As I said, we use a full life cycle assessment methodology, including upstream emissions. So it means, for instance, that we do not consider that 1 megawatt hour of solar is zero CO2. We know that it's not zero in a life cycle assessment approach. We have defined a carbon footprint maximum threshold to ensure that hydrogen is really not only renewable, but also low carbon. And we have the label that is associated to the molecules and to the quantity, and that will be the, I would say, pave the way to the traceability. Last slide for me. Sorry. With regard to regulatory compliance, as I said, our scheme is global and compliance with a certain regulation, being in a country or in a continent, can be assessed at the same time with additional criteria. And I invite you to ask your questions to our booth. Bureau Veritas stand is A67, just that way. Thank you very much.